Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love tech. I probably have too many overlappings because I see the new thing and I'm like, oh, but I haven't really fully used the ones that I have to realize that it was already there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And do you do live coaching? Is that what you do after your event? Do you promote them into a live mastermind or and so there's no recordings, it's all via Zoom?
Well, I can record Zoom. I do like to give people their recordings when I record them
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's only fair. Like, why should only one of us have the recordings?
Yeah.
You might need to refer to it later. You might need to take a clip to promote what you're doing. It's
Mm-hmm.
only fair, I think.
No, I think it's great. And is it more one-on-one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I invite a few people to the masterminds we have. We have a mastermind weekly. And if I think they're a good fit, if I think they'll get along, play well with others, they can be invited.
No, that's great. That's great.
No.
So I heard that you did an event back in March, right?
Yep.
So
No,
what did
wait,
that,
sorry, April.
oh, was it
It was
April?
in
What did
April.
that look like?
It was for freelance graphic designers, trying to get them to move from the mindset of freelancers and onto the mindset of business owners.
Mm-hmm.
I had, it was for women and had different women talk about what they do, how they went from being a freelancer into, they were mostly agency owners, how they started their business and how did they hire, how did they get new business, and what was it like when they had to let people go or when people wanted to move on? When did they know when it was time to pay taxes? Stuff like that.
Oh, fantastic. Taking them from that whole idea of I'm doing a side hustle to you're not doing a side hustle, you're running a business.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But with that event, that was my first event. I didn't have an upsell. I didn't do anything but host an event and have an upsell for the recordings.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot more now.
We all have to start somewhere, right? And it's
That's right.
what our comfort level is at. And if it was your first virtual event, yeah, keep it simple. I think the biggest thing that from any of these virtual event trainings that we've both participated in is keep it simple. Don't overwhelm, just get it going and start doing it. So then was it a 1 day, 3 day? What did you do for a model?
It was for a week and it was 2 speakers a day.
Oh, wow. Wow. Amazing. And then it went for a couple of hours each day.
That's right.
Great. Great. So in my space, from a virtual perspective, I've done a couple more smaller events that have been a few hours. I've been working with some clients who've been speaking on stages that have been doing events, whether they're 1 or 2 days. But over the next couple of months, I'm running a 1 day event for a not-for-profit that I'm involved with, and then for a client, a 3 day event. So we're kind of taking a 3 day model event and working out content and offering their coaching programs within it.
It's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
How are you managing your time to make out, I guess, put on your calendar those 3 days and then making yourself available for those entire 3 days?
How am I making the time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think when I've worked with some of my clients, I like to really go more in depth with them. So it's kind of a collaboration between them and their team. So one of the groups that I work with have a team. And I mean, when we look at putting an event and if you're speaking and if you're running the event, you can't do it alone. You need to have a support system and day of. I'm not specifically speaking at it. I might have a small portion within it, but realistically, you can't be speaking and managing your tech at the same time. You could be speaking and watching the chat, but managing your tech is something completely different. Attendees might need help, right? Is your tech person same as your help desk? So it's making sure that you have all that pool of resources that you can pull from. I mean, right now in my model and within my own business, I either work with a team that from a client's perspective, or I have my own subcontracted team to help me with an event. So, and that can come from various capacities, not only from the event day, but leading up into the event, from the putting together the marketing communication, the emails, the design, the social media, the and then even going down to the event logistics, like the scripts, and making sure that all of these pieces, what's your outcome from this? Is it to help promote your program, try your first event, hopefully work with find potential clients that'll lead into other services that you may offer them. I think looking at a whole event strategically and deciding, who you're trying to serve and what that outcome is for them and for you too, because, this is most people who are doing this in this space are coaches and consultants, and they have something that they want to share, with their audience.
Yeah. You know what, Kristine? I didn't introduce you. So let me do that now.
Well, we had the tech issue at the beginning.
Yes. Kristine, CEO of LMVA Consulting. What do those letters stand for?
Those are my 4 pillars: learning, mentorship, volunteerism, and achievements. So when I look at the work that I do, the people that I serve, learning from a professional development side, I personally am a continuous learner, and I think the people that I work with and the people that I serve are also continuous learners. They value mentorship. Some, run their own mentorship programs, but I think we all get to a certain place in career and position within our own lives that you can't do without a support system. So professional life, all of those things. Mentorship, volunteerism, huge proponent of giving back into the community. And, at the end of the day, you want to celebrate those achievements. Hence the reason the disco ball in the background.
Great. I think it's brilliant that you named your company after the actions you like to take.
Yes.
That's nice and smart.
Well, it wasn't my first lead into my name. It's an interesting process as an entrepreneur when you're looking at your business and what you want to do. And when I first started my business, that's not what I originally thought that I would do some events, but I didn't think it would be to the extent that I'm doing now. And at the same time, because I love working with associations, and I had been in the association world for 15 years before I left, I wanted to take those skills and bring it into working with different associations. And so the acronym to begin with was leading and managing the vision of your association. So I had a tagline that way, and it's evolved from there, not only from determining who you wanted to serve, but, with the work that you're passionate about. Still passionate about associations, but there's this whole element of working with speakers and coaches and consultants who, want to promote their programs, promote their services. And I think one method, and I think a really interesting method, if you can't find a stage, is to create your own stage. And it's all about creating opportunities.
Like that. Yeah. Can't find a stage, create your own stage.
Why not? And especially in this virtual stage, it is easy. It is easy. I mean, obviously, it takes some time and some thought process to make it intentional into how you're going to create that stage. But your reach is much more greater in this virtual space.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
So in your bio, you said you fell into your position. How did that happen?
The association world or this world?
This one, hosting events for others.
Well, and it's interesting. The work that I would do with associations that I was really hoping to narrow down with was focusing on that member service, member engagement, promoting their programs, services, maybe some events to bring people together. And what I realized over time is that the part that really excites me, the thing that I excel at, is really connecting people, right? I could be in a room and be chatting with a couple of people and say, oh, wait, this person's looking for somebody to share space with, and this person's looking for something to share space with. And you've kind of got a sense and a vibe about those people. Well, maybe you two should talk, right? Or whether it's in person or digitally, a tweet comes out and, someone has a catchy name. It's something that your client has already talked about. I'm like, I really think you two should connect. And that client connects with somebody else and they develop a partnership. I think it's being observant and a little bit of people watching and little kind of using your intuition on, who you think would be a good fit. And so
You're a
I like to.
sociologist.
What's that?
You're a sociologist. Study people. Or anthropologist. It's one of them. Being observant and connecting people can either be a linchpin. I like that though.
Yeah. Well, and I think you see that at events, right? I mean,
yes.
That's where you'll get a lot of that, unless you have coffee with somebody and there's only so many hours of the day and there's so many organizations that you want to connect with, that these events are kind of that mass gathering where you can try and connect with different people. And things like the virtual event that we were at, I mean, you think about those breakout rooms that we were thrown into over a series of 3 days and the people that we have met. And our conversation was only 5 minutes, and look at us now.
And I remember it very well. We met at the virtual event on virtual events. We call it TV. The breakout room, like she said, 5 minutes. Yep. What really stood out about Kristine for me is that when they asked her what kind of people she wants to work with, and she said she wanted to work with people who respect her. And I was like, wow, that makes sense. I was like, why not put that out there to the world to know you only want to work with people who respect what you do? I love that. So
go on.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
I wanted to know what's your favorite thing about what you do, because you've been doing it for over 15 years. And how do you find respectful people to work with? Do you know right away? That sense of energy between you?
Yeah, I think it's energy, having that initial conversation. I think realistically in our guts, we know if it's a right fit, right? You look at a series of questions and functionality, if you're looking for someone to help you with your event or work with an event or a client, right? You ask some of these standard questions about what they need, when they want the event, what their outcomes are. But realistically, it's really going down into your core values, right? Like, do your core values align? Are you passionate about the same things? Are you not passionate about personality? How they work with their staff, how they treat their staff. There's a lot of different elements when it comes down to it. And I think it's understanding and asking questions that may not be necessarily traditional in the sense per se, right? Finding what their hobbies are. I mean, if they work 24/7 and don't do anything else outside of that, what is that work ethic philosophy, right? And if you carve out time personally that you work Monday to Friday, or you work Tuesday to Sunday because of events, are they going to be is that client going to be reaching out to you every day? It's kind of setting up for yourself healthy parameters. And when you think about that whole TVE formula, when we talked about, why you're doing, like what's your why, right? And then and finding that right fit client and what your non-negotiables are. All of those questions kind of help kind of formulate, what you want for a business, and what kind of organization you want to grow, right? Because I think, like, we're living in a world where our work and personal lives are integrating. There's no such thing in a way as balance, right? We're passionate about the projects that we love. We need to make sure that we take time for self-care and our family and friends and all of those other things. But when you're working with clients and serving people that you're passionate and you love their causes, then and you believe in what they're doing, I think that's important. And I think in there becomes that in turn, that mutual respect.
Yes. Taking on red flag clients, I firmly believe that your emotions affect your work.
Mm-hmm.
And once your work is out there, that's a representation of you.
Yeah.
I've taken on red flag clients because I thought I needed testimonials or case studies. I need to have people who say that I've worked for them. Definitely will never, ever do that again.
Yeah.
I work with a guy who said he had an event coming up in 1 month, and he said he needed it all done very soon. I believed him. So I did it all in 1 day. I set up his platform in 1 day. And he's like, oh, you did all that in a day? Okay. How about do this? So I did that because I'm thinking it needs to be done. And he's like, oh, you did that? Well, how about this? He just kept adding on things, and he didn't want to pay me.
Oh.
Yeah. So once your work is out there and you're feeling a certain kind of way, it's like, I didn't want bad work to represent me.
No.
And I should have known that working with a red flag client will affect my work or my outcome. But doing things, I wanted to have a good rapport. I wanted to let people know that I could do this, but I probably should have got paid up front.
Yeah. Or created a service agreement or a contract, right? Yeah. Having yourself protected, and it's good for you and it's good for your client, right? To make sure that you understand roles and responsibilities and what you're going to do, and that if an add-on is putting into that, like what that service will cost. Most of my career when I worked with the accountants, I focused a little bit on working with the small, mid-sized public accounting firms and professional development and regulatory in a few areas. And one of the things, I sat in a lot of their professional development sessions, and not necessarily technical per se, but the ones where you're running your practice and practice management and value billing. And I remember sitting in one of those sessions, and the speaker at the time had, said that it's okay to fire clients. It's okay to pick and choose who you work with, because sometimes the most demanding and challenging clients, aren't going to fulfill you. They're going to cost you way more than what you're getting paid to do, and to really have that confidence to be able to say that. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs we're looking at ourselves, and I think it's great when people can fully charge what they're worth and feel confident on it. But I think it's building those muscles, right? And especially if you're not in that environment, right? People who end up coaching, consulting, all those, they've developed skills over the years. It's now let's develop all the owner business management, the sales skills, because we may not have necessarily developed them over time, or even operational skills, right? Those basic operational skills, making sure you have all those policies in place, all of those things. So even though if you're a coach and consultant, you're still a business owner.
Yes. Makes sense. So 15 years, still doing it. You obviously love what you do. What events do you have coming up for yourself or for clients?
Well, in a couple of weeks, or in about a month, I'm on a board for a not-for-profit. So Winnipeg Jazz Orchestra in Winnipeg, and we're doing a one-day Women in Jazz Symposium. So we are hosting that on the 5th. We're actually in the process of getting ready everything to launch. And so we're going to do a one-day event, more to help promote and educate on women jazz performers, and also give students an opportunity to play a little bit, not fully in a virtual space, but that way you could hear everybody, because we all know that when you play virtually, nothing syncs on time.
There's a lag.
Yeah. And so we're pretty excited about that. And it'll be a great opportunity to test a new software platform that we're working with. At TV this last year, they chatted about how they were creating LMVA, which is a platform that overlays over Zoom, but it's basically kind of focusing on your member experience. And I will be trying that out for this event. And then in June, one of the clients that I work with is working on a practice management conference virtually for 3 days for accountants and bookkeepers who want to look at not the technical side, but running a more effective and efficient practice to give some space in your life to do all the other things that you love. So we're kind of working on some final details on that. But it's time. I've done a few events. They've been smaller events, more lunch and learns, a couple of hours. The last in-person event I did was last September, before our health regulations didn't permit us to do anything, and that was a group of 25. But last year in May at this time, I ran my first virtual event, and it was for 30 people. I had a host Leadercast, which is based out of US, but a lot of different cities across the world will be host sites. And so I work with them to use their content and then facilitate some discussion and networking and bring in a local speaker. So I tried that virtually for the first time last year. So I think I enjoy playing around with it, and I've enjoyed running events where I can help facilitate and host and bring people together in a virtual space. So I think the more you get immersed in it, the more you play with it. Then I probably do a few, anywhere from 3 to 5 events a year, depending on scale. And then a couple of clients that I work with, we have community groups, and so we bring their community together in a Zoom call. So it's kind of the things that I've been working on the side.
Cool. What's your favorite, working for clients or setting up events for yourself?
Well, that's a tough one. So when I think about my own events, I haven't done my own event virtual yet in this space. So I've done them all for clients. And then what I've learned over the last probably year is that it's time that I do run my own events. And have some facilitation, have some speak on a few topics. And my favorite event last year was the one that I coordinated at the beginning of January, where it had goal setting, momentum, mindfulness, journaling, and it was and I brought together a pool of speakers together. The energy in that room was amazing. Like, speakers were great. They were motivating, they were inspiring, and it was a half-day event. But I remember walking out of that thinking that everyone was excited. People in that group met new friends. It was a group of 30 people, and you don't need a large group to kind of get that energy. I mean, it's amazing when you can have these amazing stages where you're creating these stadiums, and yeah, that definitely is on that goal list. But to have those intimate conversations with these groups of people and really get to know them in this space, taking that virtually is kind of been my goal with any of the events that I've worked with my clients on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds
How about
really
you?
nice. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How about you? What's your next event? What have you got on the go?
So I'm thinking late June. events, on virtual events like we went to. And I was thinking about having maybe panel discussions for maybe 3 days at an hour at a time, or maybe running it out for a week. Like how you said with the goal setting, a lot of people come on the show and they talk about having your goals or know what your outcome is. So goal setting, vision boards,
Right.
stuff like that. I'm a big fan of writing things down and having vision boards. Um, how to find your right fit client.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of joining other groups where your clients are, and having conversations with them, and how to monetize your event. Big fan of high ticket sales and low ticket sales, and having a mix of those.
Mhm.
So
So do you do a couple of hours each day because of the audience that you serve, or is it partially because of things like Zoom overload, taking time away from their other work? Is there a strategy or a thought behind your thoughts behind that?
a lot of facilitators I've met have told me that the sweet spot is an hour and 30 minutes
Mhm.
for a presentation / training.
Mhm.
So I thought I could have like a little bit of a presentation and the rest is training, let people get what they need from the session, and then have the rest of their day free.
Right.
Um, I enjoyed TEV, but I
Yeah.
felt like I was held hostage.
Oh, yeah. Well, that ended up, let's talk about TV for a second. That was an amazing event. So if you're a coach, consultant, author, speaker, and definitely considering leveraging your own stage, it's definitely one of those events to even just pick on different ideas and see what Blue and Barry are doing. And yeah, they're great coaches and wonderful sharers. But yes, you started at like 9:30, 9 o'clock, and then you went until 7 o'clock. Sometimes it was later. They were straight for 3 days long. And then you're getting up for half an hour to take a break, get something to eat. And again, hostage, but I found it engaging, right? Like you just get right immersed into it.
Yeah.
But you walk
I mean,
out of there after 3 days and going, oh my God, where do you start?
8 to 10 hours, 3 days. I really did enjoy it. They got me by saying you're not going to get the recording until 3 to 6 months later.
Yeah.
There's like, 2 weeks later, you got the recording. Like, I could have waited, but I would have missed the breakout rooms.
We wouldn't have met if you missed the breakout rooms.
That's true. So it was like hostage and Stockholm syndrome at the same time. I love Blue and Berry still. I'm grateful that I did get to attend.
Mhm.
That was a really long time. My kids were mad at me for sitting in front of my computer. I was just like, are you going to do anything else today? I'm like, I really need to do this. But
Yep.
I made it through.
Well, and giving yourself permission to carve out the time. Sometimes it's a catch-22, right? If you are self-motivated enough to watch the recordings afterwards, great. That's a wonderful skill set. I know I'm not. Like I have great intention.
You got to watch the recordings. There's stuff in there that wasn't in the live. Like, I didn't know that they were streaming live to YouTube for the first day. That was amazing. So now I'm going to add that.
But yeah, it's some of those things that, being intentional and carving out the time to review or watch those recordings. And when you've carved it out in your calendar and you've already committed to it and canceled everything. But again, it really depends what's, outside of your office, right? Outside of the computer screen.
True.
So what part of events do you love? Like what part of working with your clients and creating these events for them do you love the most?
I love when I find the clients who listen to me. I work with some clients who just believed everything I said and it came out exactly how they wanted. I was like, yes. What I like being a part of events is being in breakout rooms. Like for Zoom, Zoom will let me pick my own breakout rooms now. I can label them and say, hey, you can go wherever you want to now. I love that. I love the lounge and air meet because I can go to any table and talk to anybody I want to. Yeah. It's great. It's the networking. I can meet strangers around the world, Canada, and and have conversations with them. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is amazing. And, I still can't wait until we could do a live event again, because I'd still love to travel to go to these places to meet people in person, right? So I still can't wait for that day. But until then, and I mean, it makes things like this virtually, it makes it accessible, right? There's so many people that, either can't commit the time, have the means to be able to travel to these different locations, and take advantage of these opportunities. And there are so many people out there that are offering virtual opportunities, some with a charge, some at low cost, and finding the right people to follow and be a part of that network that you want to grow with, because when you end up at these events, you get to know their people, right? And if you like those speakers and you get to know their people and they're very like-minded with you, then you end up doing things like this and sitting on a call for an hour with someone that you met in a breakout room.
Yeah. I like how that happened.
Yeah. Well, it's very organic, right? And natural. And what I find sometimes with virtual, that even people who may be a little more introverted, might have that opportunity to speak a little bit more, whether it's adding something in a chat. You're in a breakout room for 3 minutes with a focused conversation. It's not a lot of time. And you can really get to know a couple of people on the surface and build your comfort level. Because I know that sometimes going into a live event where there's thousands of people, you sometimes wonder, okay, where do you start? And if you're looking around the room for someone to chat with, now we're looking on a screen, or we're looking at the chat function and seeing if there's something that we can resonate and put our 2 cents in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you've hosted 1 day and 3 days events, and events that's ran for about a week. Do you have a favorite allotted amount of time to host events?
I like a 3-day. Gives you a real opportunity to really get to know your audience and be in a focus group, and really take that opportunity to do a deep dive on specific topics. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time for your audience to warm up, right? And really start sharing information that could be valuable not only for themselves or for others, right? I think and again, like these are some of these smaller events that I've worked with that I think you can't have those real conversations unless you really get to know people. You've established that trust, that sense of security and comfort within that community, and you're giving amazing content, right? If you're building that amazing content and creating community, whether it's through the day or evening, morning kind of add-ons, then yeah, that's kind of what I love. And then it's also the rush, right? You're gearing up towards the event and you're getting super excited. But then I always find that after the end, it's that excitement, that exhilaration, and you're ready for that next thing. And then you get home where you turn down the computer and then you're done. You need a couple of days to recoup.
You repurpose any of the content that you've used for the event?
Yeah.
How long does that take?
To repurpose it?
Mm-hmm.
Like at an event, like I think when you look at content and repurpose it, we all take something, like we can watch something 2 or 3 times and get something else different from it. So if we're taking the opportunity to look at something and see what else we can, gain a better understanding of, sometimes there might be a different story that a presenter may bring up that might resonate more than with someone else. Like I think think we all have to recognize that we probably have, like, if we have a course, we have a lot of content that we probably could readjust and leverage that content in different ways. Kind of how you said with things like this, right? You're streaming it right now, but you might take little clips and use it for social media. You might do other posts with it. And I think we all have to remember that we don't need to always be creating content. Sometimes it's an opportunity to go another step deeper into it. And I think that goes the same with content. It goes the same with our social media. I think what are those key messages that you want to share with your audience? And maybe one time you're doing the event and you're sharing content and you have a set of exercises, maybe the same time as the same set of exercises, but it has a different take to it. TV this year was my second time. I actually went last year, and when they ran their first one, I walked out with the same full notebook, different aspects, different thought process. And I think that comes from reformulating and rethinking your idea, kind of like how we all should be going through, annual strategic planning and, just, kind of looking at the direction that our organization wants to go. So I found that with TV, it really gave me an opportunity, like how I felt last year about my business and who I wanted to serve. I think this year I had a bit more of a narrow focus, right? So I think we all have those opportunities. And again, if we're finding that our audience it might not be the same for them to come back a second time, they might not be our right fit client.
Did you attend a second time to reiterate what you've learned last year, or did you think there would be new information?
I went back again because I loved it last year. So I will typically try to go to a couple of conferences a year in general as part of my own professional development plan, not only from the learning, but to see what speakers are out there, because I will help refer to different groups that I work with, different speakers, and also look for ones from my own stage that when I run my own events. But I also the learning, the networking, all of that. There were so many elements of that. And also, being around creative minds who want to try and, form that connection, have that member engagement, get a sense of where the event industry is going, that it was really good on so many different levels. And last year when they ran it, they had only run Sage Management, who runs TVE, they had only done, I think, something like five events for clients when they had first started. And so when we had done TVE 2 in January, I think they had said they had 30 or 40 or 50 under their belts. They had some sort of more number of different stages and clients that they had worked with. So again, their learning process. I mean, it's interesting to see how people evolve and different pieces. And I think they've got a great model that works for them. And they highly encourage that model because it's been a successful model. And I think as we all develop our own models, I think it's important to kind of look at, what aligns with us. I love hearing what other people are doing from their events, everything down to like their swag boxes, right? If they're doing
Love the swag box.
Yeah, like I still use my little hearts all the time.
I got my book. I printed it out, and when the last page finished printing, I got my box.
Oh,
but I like having both of them because I do watch the recording. I do, like you said, find different things. And I think my favorite thing about that event is that how they told me how I could set up my own stage. And they told me how I could make my own dashboard. Never thought about any of those before.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Well, and if you don't want to make it, there is somebody else out there who can do it for you. Right.
Yeah.
And then you focus on working on your presentation, your courses, material that you want to share with your audience. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it definitely. I think the great thing about it is it helps empower us to be able to take that next step. And I'm a huge proponent of creating opportunities. So if there isn't, so as I've been working with some of these clients and other people out there that have talked about, they're trying to find a stage and they want to speak at this event or they want to speak at that event. And if it's not working or they want to accelerate that, why wouldn't you create your own stage? Right?
Yeah.
If you have the means and the capability, and realistically, for anyone that's starting out, you could easily use Zoom, right? If you're comfortable with Zoom. Some use Teams. I'm not as familiar with Teams, but even if you use Zoom to live stream it or to share it with a small group, I mean, it's a good first step.
Yeah. Like in TV, they told us to write Zoom down in big letters with a Sharpie because that's all you really need.
Yeah.
But I still love air meet, so.
You know what, Airmeet had some neat elements to it. Like I did check out Airmeet and I did like it. There was something about it that didn't sit, and maybe, you know what, I think it was that part where they were doing the recordings. I couldn't, disable the recordings, and I'm sure there might be a way to do it, but having certain flexibilities within your control, because not necessarily depending on your audience you can record. I mean, you can record and get people to sign off on a waiver, but depending on your group, for example, if we're working with youth, you can't really necessarily be recording those sessions unless you get additional waivers and sign-offs for it, right? And parental consent. So it adds in a whole other layer of policy to it.
Yeah. So I guess with photography, if you're out in public, you're allowed to take anyone's picture. But if you're on a recording in Zoom and they're sitting in their home, you are not in a public area.
No, definitely. There's a lot of extra considerations when it comes to it, but there's lots of people who've been setting up different events who can provide that guidance and support. And when you don't have that, need that extra support and need something from that perspective, you ask a lawyer.
Yes. I like that. A lawyer was a part of the TEV event, and he was cool to hang out with.
Yeah. Josh had some great tips, and from a contract perspective, just things to think about, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. We know what we know, and so it's important that we connect with and reach out to people who are in that same space. Leverage that knowledge, expertise, build relationships from it, because that, and the thing is that within your Facebook group, I mean, there are tons of coaches and speakers within that group. It's not to say that those coaches and speakers can't leverage each other to help with their first event, right? You've got, two people are trying to run their own event but want some backup or support. I mean, there's a perfect community there that you could reach out to and ask.
Yeah, that's also very convenient.
Well, exactly, because the people that you've been building, because that Facebook group started back in January, right? Was that January?
I think so.
Yeah, and it has about 70 or 80 people in it, if I remember correctly. Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but I know it's a lot now.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a great opportunity for people not only to share what they're doing, but to promote their events, to collaborate with people. Yeah, we all have different right fit clients, and realistically, even people in the same space, one person's style might be slightly different than another person's style.
Yeah. Well, Kristine, we should probably wrap up now. So tell the good people where they can find you if they want to connect with you.
Okay, great. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn under Kristine Tubiera, or you can go to my website at www.lmva.ca. Talks a little bit more about my services. I have a monthly newsletter you can sign up for and stay connected with some of the tips, tricks, and other upcoming events that LMVA is having. But when you talk about groups, Erica had shared that if I had any PDFs or anything to share, but if anyone in that Facebook community is having a struggle or challenge that that they have posted in the group, and maybe we'll do a crowdsourcing thing where if there's a common theme, and if I have like regarding events and maybe some of those challenges and obstacles, we'll put together a PDF and share it amongst the Facebook community.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for inviting me to this. This was fun. I love talking about events and, and seeing what other people are doing and getting to know people a little bit better.
Hooray. Thank you, Kristine. I appreciate you coming on, and guess I'll see you a little later.
For sure. Thanks, Erica. Bye.